Coming to blank noise that you spoke about, many a times in school or college we think about so many things, we dream about so many things. But you started blank noise when you were in college, and it has been so many years. You are still a part of it. How did it all start, and how did you continue for so many years?
So it started with, in terms of, so there are two questions. One is how did it start, and the other is how did it continue. So it started when I was in school, when I was in college, in art school, and in my final year at Srishti. And I was experiencing street harassment every other day, not every day, but every other day for certain. But more than that, I was walking around with a sense of fear in my heart and in my fist and on my back, and I was just really ready to deal with the world by being defensive. And that's something that was beginning to bother me, that what is with my body language, and I look at everyone as suspect, because also you don't know who it's going to be. Suddenly somebody is groping, spitting on, stalking, and the thing was that people weren't taking it seriously back then. And there was a dismissal that, yeah, it happens, boys are like this, don't make a big deal out of it. But then I started noticing my friends, that most of my friends were walking in groups, or not walking at all, or had a boyfriend. So there was a kind of very invisible sense of taking care of yourself, taking responsibility for your safety in these very invisible everyday decisions. And I realized that I wasn't doing any of those. I was walking around the city with a camera, engaging with strangers, enjoying photography, just enjoying being in a city and wanting to know a city. So there were certain decisions and choices that I saw myself making. So having and as a result, so it was definitely a quiet, it was definitely a little bit of an isolated spot in terms of nobody taking it seriously, or very few people taking it seriously, and then having to deal with this every other day. And then I was also in art school. I'd studied communication for social change with the director of Srishti, who was running a year-long lab with us, where we were looking at how art and design or artists and designers can play a role in social transformation, and that, and looking at the complexity of social issues. That it's not product led, but it's also process led, that you create series of interventions and you can be an artist as a facilitator. So there was that kind of exposure and understanding. And more, and then in terms of where I found a deep connect was also in feminist and community art practice. Like I saw women artists changing the scene through their work, whether it was whether it was looking at Suzanne Lacey's work, who was one of the, feminist artists and continues to be from the 1970s, and how she mobilized community and created, there was conscience raising in her work. Or when you see Marina Abramovic's work, where it's about the body and confrontation and healing. And so I was interested in feminist and community art practice and looking at how can an artist be part of this process. So all of these experience, academia and inspiration mixed together led to wanting to start the conversation, and that was with blank noise. And I was in my final year. It was part of my diploma project at Srishti, and I got all the girl students to one room, and I asked them to make this mind map with public space, with the word public space. And there were largely negative associations, which gave the basis to propose that we start this conversation, not knowing where it would go, but that we needed to start it. And out of the 60 who were addressed, 60 women, young, between 18 to 23 years, there were about 9 who were willing to enter this and build this. So they became our first 9 action heroes. A series of workshops began with this group of 9, and and the 9 co-created a space to talk about experiences, to be able to pull out or cull out some things that we had tucked away, and because it might have been too painful, or we could make these connections. I think when we hear of or when we are part of a hashtag like Me Too, it's imagine that happening in a workshop scenario back in 2003, and it was a 3-month process, and then it led to an audio installation, an in-house exhibit, And then I graduated, but not knowing what the next step should be, could be, and how to, in terms of, definitely people, the idea always was that people, we have to work towards collective ownership of the issue. So how do we, where do you begin? And then again, I had like a research associate position at Srishti for a year, and then after that I was on my own, not on my own at all, but with a whole community of action heroes. And so we started building these participatory projects, year after year, month after month, sometimes week after week, that were always a call for action. And that's when the word or the term action hero came about as well, because we were always calling people to action. And so if you ask me how it has continued because, one is that the work, misogyny and patriarchy and rape culture is so deep rooted, so it continues. But it has continued on the efforts and strength of various action heroes from various towns, cities, some even different countries, who come together and who participate in various actions. So, there've been some amazing people who've come together along the way. There's Annie in Bombay, there's Hemangini, who was here in Bangalore and took it to Delhi. There was Chinmay, who took it to Delhi. So there are lots of action heroes who have contributed and shaped the collective in various ways over the years.
And how many years it has been now?
14.
14 years, so many. I was thinking it is only restricted to Bangalore, but you are saying in different countries also. Give one example of a work.
So no, in terms of the different countries, there are people who've signed up from different countries. And so we've had, so there's Amalia in the UK right now, and some, different, there are a couple of action heroes who are living in USA right now, but somewhere they've, so we're, so in terms of like structure, we've been mostly, back in 2006, 2007, it was a very formal-ish structure of Blank Noise Hyderabad, Blank Noise Calcutta, Blank Noise Delhi, and so there were chapters, and now it's much more of a swarm-like approach. So for example, when we do the next event, you could be an action hero anywhere, and if this speaks to you, make it your own. So it's not so located in whether what's happening in a particular place, but if you are, let's say you're from Andamans and you're living in Port Blair, and you connect with an idea, you can build it there. So it's not so, it's more of a swarm-led approach rather than, so we've had actions like Becca Savory in the UK, who did a walk alone there, so it's much more organic and fluid than, so it's not like I'm speaking of a grand empire of ready people waiting to do something, but it's more of, here's an idea and somebody signed up to do that idea and make it their own, and that's sort of the nature of things.
And for sure this is only women-led?
No. There are lots of male action heroes as well.
Male action hero?
Yes.
But aren't they the one who are harassing the women?
Well, not. Patriarchy is creating certain bodies, is giving certain kind of masculinity a rise to act and justify their actions. So we don't see it in these binaries of male versus female, and there have always been men who've joined Blank Noise and been action heroes at Blank Noise, but the question really has been about what brings you here, and how do you go beyond also being like the good guy who supports women's issues versus seeing this as part of your. So it's always, at Blank Noise everything's a little like slow cooking. We have to think and chew upon our food and thoughts and internalize things rather than, so it's not like I'm going to help someone and save someone, but I'm going to shift something within myself and act into my own, or ignite my own capacity to become an action hero. So you too, Bodhi, can do something to build a safe space. How can you be an action hero? And like that, how can, a guy also become an action hero? Another guy. So the basic essence is that each of us has the ability to do so. Each of us has the ability to, without moral policing someone and through patriarchy protecting someone, saying don't go here, don't do this. How do we step into our power to build a safe space? So it's not restricted to one type of body, across identities.
And 14 years, how many action heroes you have now?
I don't know actually, because it's hard to. So right now we're trying to also map all of this, because there have been so many action heroes in so many forms of, in so many ways. So some online, some offline, some only online. And so people have participated in so many ways. So we're actually trying to quantify this in terms of how many action heroes.
Any approximate number or say a ratio of male and female?
Well, actually, one of our this year's action hero, she took it upon herself to find out how many male and female applicant action heroes that apply to volunteer and intern, and she found out that 58%. So thank you, Sakshi, for finding this fact. Is that 58% were women action heroes and 42% of male volunteers that signed up.
Which is almost 50-50, na?
58 and 42, yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. So that's
equal.
Good news. Yeah, that means it's a sign. And then she only referred to she only looked at who applied in 2017. But that is one of the things that we were also looking to find out.
It is only women led?
No. There are lots of male action heroes as well.
Male action hero?
Yeah. And there have always been men who've joined Blank Noise and been action heroes at Blank Noise, but the question really has been about what brings you here, and how do you go beyond also being like the good guy who supports women's issues versus seeing this as part of your. So it's always, at Blank Noise everything's a little like slow cooking. We have to think and chew upon our food and thoughts and internalize things rather than, so it's not like I'm going to help someone and save someone, but I'm going to shift something within myself and act into my own or ignite my own capacity to become an action hero. So is that 58% were women action heroes and 42% of male volunteers that signed up.
Which is almost 50-50, na?